Oh my god. Oh crap. I tried this so many times. Ouch.
7K dreamer please.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be looking at Mythical Awakened Judas Special Dungeon. Now this dungeon is very difficult. In fact, it took me more tries than other 7 out of 0 dungeons, and the reason is because I think he does require a lot of resistances because he has bleed and poison, as you can see from his awaken skill. For his passive, he decreases magic damage taken, so we're gonna use Shane as you saw, and also reduces fixed damage he takes. He increases damage he deals to your team, so you need to be very well geared defensively, and he also has immortality, which is super annoying. Then for his first skill, he decreases buff duration and ignores 60% defense, so it hits pretty hard, but I think if you have proper gear, it is okay. And for his bottom skill, it actually has the fear. Now what exactly does fear do? We will look at it later on in the match. I just want to say that it is not just what I said in the previous video, that it allows crit and lethal damage to be done onto your team, okay? For his awaken skill, he has poison and bleed and also 30,000 fixed damage, so it hits very hard. So even with HP armor, you know, you can be dealt with a lot of damage, and you need to give HP armor to your team because you know, it's fixed damage after all. And of course, he has death debuff on his effect attack, so you need death debuff on a particular hero if you're using a taunter. If you're not using a taunter, like in my team, I am actually using the Pentagon team with Zahara for incapacitation of universal heroes, so this actually works, okay? And do take note that skill cooldown in special dungeons isn't accurate, so even with Ares countering for Shane, you may not get constant skills from Shane. The first skill is always use the Phoenix. I'm not using Yuri here because I don't want to take the risk. I think Yuri may be fixed already, so you can use Yuri if you want, but I'm using Rachel instead. And there's something wrong with Chloe's voice. I hope they fix it because she sounds like a horrible giant. Okay, anyway, my awaken skill for Shane is up. As you can see just now, my Shane actually used skill attacks first, so that's why her awakening gauge charged very quickly. So the bleed and the poison is casted here, but because of Chloe's existence, I have immunity against poison basically, and the only thing left is bleed. So for certain units I don't have bleed resistance. For my Ares I do, because otherwise she would die very quickly. This is the fear move. As you can see, fear completely prevents counters, locks out your attack. It's basically a silence, but even better because they don't allow basic attacks as well. Okay, not even a single counter from my Ares. It's kind of like an incapacitation, I think, because they don't seem to be moving my unit easy, and it allows very crazy damage to be dealt to your team. So I thankfully have Chloe, and I can heal away the fear, so that's good. I take less damage from here. Otherwise, you know, you will be seeing my units take a lot of crit and lethal damage. In fact, I have another run later on, so please stay tuned for it. Yeah, my Ares died, but it's completely fine. And even if Ares dies, the incapacitation passive from Zahara still goes through, so he dies without living at 1 HP and being immortal. So the run is pretty fast. And do take note that I don't have Fenrir, I don't have Eileen here, so my damage is purely from Shane, okay, raw from Shane. Here I'm using the standard team, I just don't have Seek, and I fast forward the run, okay. The reason why is that I was trying to test whether Chloe was usable, because I was using Seek and Seek died really quickly thanks to the taunt and all the poison and bleed. If you don't have resistances on Seek, he will die very quickly, and it's pretty much pointless because skill cooldown is kind of bugged in special dungeon anyway, so you don't really need Seek. And I use Chloe instead. As you can see, you know, it's really luck who the fear actually incapacitates, because if fear immobilizes your Fenrir, you cannot use the top skill from Fenrir to buff your damage, and you cannot land a block nullification, so that's gonna be a problem. And in fact, you know, if fear immobilizes your Rachel, you cannot actively cool down your Shane as well, because you can actually use Rachel's bottom skill to cool down Shane. That's even better than Seek actually. So here I kind of misclicked, otherwise I could have maybe ended earlier. I should have used the bottom skill because I kind of forgot he turned into an immortal. So I was already prepared that the run was over, but nope. Here are 6 more turns of immortality, and of course I use Eileen's top skill and Fenrir's bottom skill because they can both turn decrease, so that's very good. Apart from those two, I don't think there are any other units here that can turn decrease, and it's about a 2-minute run basically. So I'm just going to talk briefly about my equipment. For Shane, I'm currently on speed and lethal. The reason why I have speed and lethal is because of Fenrir and Shane's innate crit building mechanism, okay? So if you have Fenrir, you can go with speed and lethal. But you know, in the first team I didn't have Fenrir, I still went with speed and lethal. So that was kind of a risk that I was taking. So my lethal was very low, I would say, about 72% only. Yeah, so that's the risk I took in the first run with the Pentagon team. You should be giving her double lethal if you're using the Pentagon team because her crit is self-building, right? Otherwise you can go with this setup, and I've decided to go with the lethal damage and attack twice on basic attack. So for Fenrir, this is my PvE Fenrir, max HP and PvE jewels, okay, just to buff his bulk, and also HP ring. I think really the accessory is not very important. In fact, if you have a willful ring, it's even better. I was just really lazy to change because of goal concerns. And Chloe here, double HP, and of course status effect resist. If you do have the status effect resist, I think it's a very good thing to have on most of your units to prevent the fear, okay? For Rachel, make sure you remove the speed. The speed here is because of brawl, so if you remove the speed, the rest is basically a HP build. For my Zahara and Ares, I didn't really record, but I'll just briefly talk through it. For Zahara, also you want to give him a more bulky build, you have to give him HP armor. He also reduces block rate by 30% on Judas, so it's pretty good. Of course it is less preferred to Fenrir's block notification, but you know, what can you do here? So that's why I've given him the HP armor, make sure he's bulky. Same for Ares, you want to give her counter armor, as high counter as possible, because ultimately, you know, even a little bit of skill cooldown is still better than nothing. Yeah, and for Zahara, I actually did also Mythical Awaken 1 extra new armor, so that now I have an even number of HP armor for my heroes. Ares, I didn't really touch her. Yeah, and basically that's all for the run, and I'll just briefly talk about the synthesis as well. After you've completed special dungeon, you will earn Abyss tickets, Abyss powder, which you can use to trade in for Abyss fragments, and then Abyss fragments used to trade in for things in the top row, even Rosie, okay? You need 7 for the accessories and 8 for Rosie. This is one of the better one, the Zircon one. Recovers HP equal to 50% of attack every 3 turns. So every 3 turns you will get a very fresh hero with a full health. Probably, most probably. The second one is this one, which is pretty good. Critical rate and critical damage increase by 10% every turn. Okay, this is the Yuri effect, which I was talking about in my previous video on the update notice. And I would go for these two preferred. Okay, the last one is actually one that reduces HP. I think it's also pretty interesting. Also something to consider, you know, if you don't really want the crit rate and crit damage one. The rest below are, you know, standard event 7 Night of Old trade-ins. Galidus is particularly a special one because you can use 4 special heroes now, and you can only do it once per account. Okay, so at least it's better than nothing. If you do need a Galidus for PvE content, this is your good chance to get him. Okay, so hopefully this video helped. If it did, do like and subscribe to my channel. Stay tuned for more videos. Thank you so much and see you.